Hello guys, welcome back to another Android tutorial. In this episode, we are going to learn about how to connect your Android application with MySQL database. So here I am going to create a simple Android application that contains some login activity and registration activity. So by using the login activity, user can retrieve information from database, and by using the registration activity, user can put some information into the database. I split this video into two modules. On the first half, we set up the database and the need.php script, and on the second half, we create the Android application that communicate with the database. So before going to start the development, you need to download some software components and you have to install it. So for create an Android application with MySQL database, you must have these components. First one, you need a database. Here I'm going to use the MySQL database, and we need a web server. Here I am going to use the Apache server, and that is run as a local host, and we need some server-side scripting language. Here I am going to use PHP as server-side scripting language. And finally, you need to create an Android application that communicate with the MySQL database. So first you have to download the needed software components. Open your browser and search WampServer. Go to the first website. Go to the download option available on this website. Here you can download WampServer. Here is the 32-bit version and here is 64-bit version. If you download WampServer, you will get an Apache server application, the MySQL database, and PHP MyAdmin. So if you download WampServer, you will get all these components in a single package. So there is no need to download these components in separate setup files. So you have to download appropriate version of WampServer based on your operating system. So here my operating system is 64-bit, so I need to download the 64-bit version, and you have to download the needed version. If you download WampServer, you will get an Apache server, MySQL database, PHP and PHP MyAdmin. PHP MyAdmin is the user interface for MySQL database. Okay, so download this and install this one. So after installing WampServer, you have to start WampServer. So select all programs and search for WampServer and start WampServer. After starting WampServer, you can check the server status on the Windows notification area. Here you can see an icon of WampServer. If the icon color is green, that indicates all is going well. That means the WampServer is now ready to accept connection. Also the MySQL database is also ready to accept connections. Okay. Now we set up all the needed software components on our computer. Now we can start the development. So the first thing, we have to create a database on our MySQL database, and we have to add the needed script on the server. So first we have to create a database on MySQL database. So open your browser and on the address bar type localhost. This will display the home page of the WampServer. So we have to create a database first. So go to the PHP MyAdmin link. From this interface, you can manage the databases on MySQL. So here we have to create a new database. So select the new database option. You have to provide a database name. Here I name the database as WebAppDB and create the database. Now the database is created. You can see the database on the left side. Here is the newly created database. Now we have to add some table into this database. So expand the database, select the database and create a new table here. I name the table as user info, and here you have to specify the number of columns. I need 3 columns and click go. Now here you have to specify the column names. I specify the first column name as name and specify the type as text, second column name as username, that is also text, and the last column name is user pass. Specify that one also text. Okay, simple table that contain 3 columns, name, username and user password, and click save. Now the table is created. You can view the structure of the table from here. The table contains 3 columns, name, username, user password, all are text field. Okay, now we create our database and we add some table into the database. Now we have to add the needed script into the WampServer. Okay, now we have to write the needed PHP script in our WampServer. So go to the Windows directory. In my case, the Windows directory is in C drive, and find out the WampServer installation folder. So here is the WampServer installation folder. Open that folder and find out the public directory of WampServer. Here is the public directory of WampServer. Open that folder. So for my application here, I am going to create a new folder inside the public directory of WampServer. So create a new folder. I name the folder as web app. Okay, open that folder, and now here I am going to place the PHP script inside this folder called the web app. So now I am going to write the first PHP script. So create a new text file, create a new notepad, text document. Okay, so the first thing we have to connect to the MySQL database. We have to establish a connection to the database, and we have to add information into the database. So first here I am going to write the PHP script for establishing connection to the database. So now I need to rename this text file, and I rename it as init with the file extension .php. Okay, now this is a PHP scripting file. Okay, now we have to add the needed script. So open it in any text editor. Here I am going to open it in Notepad. Okay, now here I am going to write the PHP script for establishing a connection to the MySQL database. If you are a beginner in PHP, don't worry, it's very easy to understand PHP scripting. So first start the PHP script. This is the syntax of starting PHP script, and close the script. Okay, so for establishing a connection, we have to declare some variables here. So in PHP, every variable is start with a dollar symbol, and the first variable is the database name. So I declare the variable name as db name, and in our case our database name is webappdb. Here is the database, this is the database name webappdb. So specify the database name webappdb. Okay, now we need the user name for MySQL database, MySQL username, and in my case my username is root. Okay, now we need the password for MySQL database. So MySQL pass, and in my case my password is also root. Okay, now we need the server name. So here I use an Apache server that is run as a local host. So I have to specify the server name. So server name, in my case it is localhost. Now we have to establish connection to the database. So you have to call a function called MySQLi underscore connect. And first argument you have to specify the server name, Now you have to specify the database username. It is available on this variable MySQL user. Now you have to specify the database password. It is available in MySQL pass. And finally, you have to specify the database name. Here the database name is webappdb, that is available on this variable called db name. So db name. Okay. So this statement will establish a connection to the MySQL database, and here I am going to use another variable for save the connection. I define another variable con, and now we have the connection is available on this variable. Okay, so now we have to check whether the connection is success or not. So use an if loop. If not, con. In that case, the connection is failure. So display some message echo connection error. If you want to display the error, you have to call a function called MySQLi connect error. This function will print the error. Okay, and else, if the else case, the connection is success. Print another message, put some highlight h3 database connection success, and close the highlight tag h3. Okay, so this is the simple PHP script for establish a connection to the MySQL database. So I save the file. Now we can check the file. So open your browser, type localhost, and in localhost type localhost, and in localhost I create a folder called web app, and that contains the file called init.php. So now it shows database connection success. Now we establish a connection to the MySQL database. Okay. Now we have to create another PHP script for insert information into the database. So add another text document here. So add another text document. Name it as register.php. Okay. Now open the newly created script file in Notepad. Open in Notepad. This is also a PHP script, and close the PHP script. Okay. So here the purpose of this file is to insert some information into the database. So for adding information into the database, we have to establish a connection to the database. So we already put the needed PHP script inside this file called init.php. This PHP script actually establishes a connection to the database. So you have to call this file first. So from this file, I'm going to call that file. For that, you have to use this statement require and specify the file name init.php. So in that file, we save the connection into a variable called con. Okay. So in our table there is three field: name, username, and user password. So I declare some variable here. First one is username, and specify some value here. Okay, actually we have to get this information from the Android application. So for testing purpose, here I just simply put some information, and we have to edit this script later. And now the second variable user pass, sorry, this is simply name, and second variable is username. I specify the username as PRABEESH123. Now you have to specify the user pass, and specify the user pass as PRABEESH at 321. Okay. Now we have to create the SQL query for add information into the database. So for the SQL query, create another variable SQL query. Now here I am going to write the SQL query for adding information into the database. So insert into table name. Our table name is user info. Our table name is user info, and specify the values. The first value is the name. So we have the name is available on this variable name. Now the second data is username. And the last variable is user password. That last column is user password. Okay, put a semicolon here and close the statement with another semicolon. Now this is the query for insert information into the database. Now we have to add the information into the database. So you have to call a function called MySQL query, and this function needs two arguments. First one is the MySQL connection variable, and here we have the connection variable. Connection is available on this variable called con. So the first argument is the connection variable con. Second is the query. Here the query is available on this variable called SQL query. Okay, this statement will insert the information into the database. So if this return true, print some message echo data insertion success. Okay, otherwise we have to print the error, data insertion error, and print the error. Forget the error, you have to call a function called MySQL error, and you have to pass the connection variable as argument. This will print the error. Okay, so this is the PHP script for put information into the database. So now I save the file. So here I just put some information, I just pass some information into these variables for testing purpose. We have to modify this script later while we creating the Android application. So now we can check this script. So open your browser, and instead of init.php, the file name is register.php, and it shows data insertion is success. So now we can check whether the data is available on our table. So go to the PHP myadmin and browse the table contents. Here is the information now is inserted into the database. Now the information is available on the database table. Okay, now we have to create another PHP script for retrieve information from the database. So create new text document, and I name it as login.php. Okay, now open the file in any text editor. I open it in Notepad. This is also a PHP script. Start the PHP script and close the PHP script. First we have to establish connection to the database. So insert the file, require. Our connection file name is init.php. This will open the connection. Okay, so in login purpose, the user will pass the username and password into the PHP script, and by using that username and password we have to retrieve information from the table. So I need some variables. First one is username. I put some value direct here for testing purpose. PRABEESH123, that is the username, and user password, user pass, put some value, PRABEESH at 321. Check the user password in database, PRABEESH at 321. Okay, now we need an SQL query. So SQL query. I'm going to retrieve the name from the table by using these two fields, username and user password. So the query is select name from table name is user info and specify the condition where username like, specify the variable. Username is available on this variable called the username, and user pass like, specify the variable name. Here the user password is available on this variable called the user pass. Okay, put a semicolon here and put another semicolon to finish the statement. Okay, so this query will retrieve the column called name from the table if this condition is satisfied. Okay, select name from user info where username like username and user pass like user password. Okay, so now we have to execute this query. For that I have to call a function called MySQL query and pass the query. First you need to pass the connection, then query. It is available in SQL query. Okay, and save the result into another variable. Okay, now we have to check whether the result is available or not. If called a function called MySQL number of rows of the result, this will check whether the number of rows of the result is greater than 0. This function will return the number of rows available on the result set. Okay, if there is some rows are available, we have to get the row. So create another variable, row equal to, call another function called MySQL fetch assoc and specify the result row set. Here the row set is available on this variable called result. This will return the first row. Now we have to get the name from the first row. There is only one variable is available, that is name. So create another variable name, message, create another variable called message. No need, yeah, declare it as name. Okay, and now we have to get the name from the row. So use the variable row and specify the column name. Here the column name is name. This will return name, and print some message echo, put some highlight h3, close the highlight, hello, welcome. Now specify the variable. The data is available on variable name, and we have to close the header tag. Okay. Other case, that means no result is available. No info is available. Okay, so now this is the simple PHP script for retrieve information from the database. Okay, so I save the file. Now check the file. For that, open your browser and instead of register.php, type login.php, and this will retrieve the information from the database, and the name corresponding to username and password is PRABEESH. That is the output. Hello, welcome PRABEESH. Okay, so now we finish all the needed PHP script for the Android PHP communication, Android MySQL communication. Now we have to create an Android application that need a MySQL database connectivity using this PHP script.